Here we go. Well, thank you all for joining this webinar. This is the ACRL Leadership Discussion Group focusing on demystifying the ALA Council process. I'm Ray Pun, and I'm really pleased to have our distinguished speakers from all over ALA Council to talk about their experiences and to share some suggestions, advice, ideas that they may have for all of you who might be interested in being ALA Council members or just trying to know more about it. And so just a little bit about this group. This is the ACRL Leadership Discussion Group. So I'm the convener, and it's free. If you are an ACRL member, you are welcome to join. And we have a lot of discussions, webinars, programs, events of focusing on academic library leadership, strategic planning, but also in terms of professional development and growth. So we have here just a quick question for everyone. If you can type in the chat box, where are you from? Just so we can get a sense of where folks are coming from. I saw someone said they're from Texas. So welcome. Alabama, Ohio, Sacramento, New York, Arkansas, Florida, Virginia, LA, Boston, Philly, Denver. This is awesome. South Dakota, Northwest Indiana. Very cool. All right, I'll give another minute for folks if you like to feel free to chime in where you're from. Nashville, and all of our speakers, I'll introduce them in a bit. We have an interesting lineup and program. Champaign, Illinois, welcome. All right, so that was the sort of a icebreaker for all of you, the first one. And now here's a second icebreaker, and this is also optional. This is a website here called menti.com. It's basically an online poll. It's anonymous. And you're welcome to go to this website, type in this digit code, and then basically describe the words you want to say about ALA Council, what comes to mind. And then this is sort of like a automatic generator, and this is what it will look like. So you can type in the code right here, which I will bring back again. It is 547708. And then you join in this setup, 547708. And then the voting, you will just type in the words, 547708, and then here are some words coming up. So we got unclear, mysterious, confusing. Okay. I heard that. Oh, more words coming out. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Leadership, directional, lost, huge. Wow, this is interesting. Unwieldy, direction, futurist, achievers, advocacy, complicated. Okay.
Tedious.
Was tedious there? Oh, yes. Whoa, there is a lot of opinions. Bureaucracy. Okay. Well, this is really great. So now our panelists has some sort of spectrum of what folks are feeling, and it is Tuesday morning, afternoon, and wherever you might be influencing your the results too. But we're going to go back straight to the program. And so I first wanted to introduce ALA President Loida Garcia-Fivo. She will be giving her opening remarks to this program. And Loida, feel free to tell me when you want me to move the slide.
Okay, thank you, Ray. And greetings, everyone. I thought about sharing information about how I got involved in associations work, so that those of you that are considering joining council, can think about what you're doing and how you can, what you can bring to the table. My association's work with an ALA is one of the most rewarding works I've done in my life. Yes, libraries equal strong communities, including our librarian community. Next, I love to work in teams, and to me, ALA members are part of a great, powerful team of more than 58,000 or 60,000 members, depending when you look at the membership. Our membership renews at different times. So we can have figures for our membership during the year that vary, that will be different. So knowing that I can help effect change for library workers and all the hundreds of thousands of libraries in our country, always guided by our core principles, next, is amazing. I also guide my work by the Library Bill of Rights and the belief that libraries are for everyone. Next. And Ray, just a second. I need to know if just by moving this here, I can move the slides. All right. Apparently not, but we'll continue. I also guide myself by Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Next, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media or regardless of frontiers. And I am sharing this with you because to me it's important that those of you that are thinking about association work or council also read and research a little bit about our professional and also these areas, these documents that we hold so true as core principles as well. I wholeheartedly believe that we are stronger together. Next. Together, we can, next, fight against racism and inequality, as we've done. Next, advocate for better public policy to help everyone have access to information, which is at the core of what we do, and that is powerful. So I'm so glad that there are many people interested in ALA's association work. I can see there are many attendees here today. And so we all follow different journeys. And I want to share information on how I started. Might be helpful to you or to your friend or your colleague. Maybe you can share that with someone. So when I was in library school in Puerto Rico, I joined the Caribbean Library Association, ACRL. And then I moved to New York next, and I joined Reforma. And that is one of the advocacy things related to net neutrality, but we go next. And I learned about the work done by the American Indian Library Association, APALA, BCLA, and CALA, and the Joint Conference of Librarians of Color. And I love to stay connected with those communities of library workers and collaborate with them. So I joined those associations, and I'm missing CALA from this side. But I have worked more closely with Reforma. When I joined them, I expressed to everyone who will listen that I wanted to work in the committees. And they did. And the president at the time, and this is why this is important, because it is worth it to ask and to investigate a little bit if you are really interested. So the president at the time asked me to share right away Reforma Librarian of the Year Award. And then he asked me to represent Reforma at the ALA Diversity Council, which was being established back in those days. So there was I wanted to work and got into those areas. So when I got to ALA, I realized that I could impact more processes to help libraries, including library workers of color. And I loved that because the association was so big, it has big reach. And there were librarians from all over the country working towards helping the communities and their colleagues. So I really loved that. I also learned about the ALA Council. And I started watching council meetings. I will go there and sit in the back in the observers area and watch the meetings. It was fascinating to me. I learned that every member could run for council, anyone, newer and veteran librarians alike. And I was ecstatic. I understood I could bring more change by being a member of council. But in my mind, I first needed to see how things worked. And that was my personal thinking. I looked at all the various ALA committees. I went to the website and identified the areas closer to my heart: intellectual freedom and international relations. And through the years, I was a member of those committees and ran tables, and I ran for elected positions within those two areas. And it was fantastic, and I always kept an eye on council. And so it was great to be working with different areas of PLA and with the Freedom to Read Foundation. And super, super fortunate to be appointed chair of the membership committee. And this is the committee. I was really glad that I was able to lead the effort to establish the ALA's virtual membership meeting, which is coming up very soon in May. So we did that. And then people started to ask me to run for council, and I wanted that. So it was a beautiful time. Those two things came together. And I ran for council. But that year, when I looked at the election results, my name was right after the line signaling all the elected councilors. So, you know, that line, so my name was right after that. And I decided I will run again. And I ran again the next year, and I got elected. But to me, the most important aspects of this, and this is another thing I wanted to share with you, is that sometimes we don't get elected, and that's okay. You have to just keep working towards your goal, and it can happen again. So yes, so it's very important to me that you work hard, and these associations work area. To me, working hard is very important. Do what you said you were going to do, and to be passionate about what you do. I am passionate about serving my communities, the desire of serving my communities. I understand that my associations work to help our profession, our library workers, and our libraries will impact the communities. So that's how I see it. And that's why I like to work hard. And I cannot be part of a committee and not work. So that's important. And so, yes, we need passionate, dedicated people who like to work, and we have many members sharing these characteristics, and we need more. Council work is serious work. We have a big responsibility. This work can be very complex, and Ray, please keep going. I wanted to show the different areas where I worked. Yes, and you can be interested in some of that. Okay, and you can represent, just go back a second, because being in council is very, very important, and I love there are many people interested, but there are other areas too, through international relations, others. You could even represent association that's at the European Union Parliament next, or at the United Nations. You know, we are part of this wonderful world, so it's our country in the international sphere. Next. And yes, more international United Nations. Next. Let's go next. That's not me.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes. Okay. So thank you, Ray. So let me just go back and summarize. I wanted to share with you some important aspects. No, back. About how council work is serious work. So with the brief background I share about my experience on how I got there, I also want to say that it's a big responsibility. It can be very complex. Sometimes it can be very tough, but we also bring to fruition policies and programs that will impact the 320,000 libraries that we have in this country or more, and the more than 120,000 librarians. So our association is a powerful association, and is the oldest and the largest library association in the world. Our work impacts public policy, programs, and much more in our communities all across our country. So this is very important, serious work that we do. Librarians from all over the world keep a close watch in our publications, in the guidelines, in the products, the policies, and the programs. And they use them to teach at their own library schools in their countries and to implement their own programs and services. So this is a lot of information and some pointers that I wanted to share with you. And I hope you find this helpful. I thought that sharing my experience will give you an insight on how someone can become an ALA counselor, and in my case, eventually went to president. So if you like to work and you're passionate about communities, our democracy, our country, libraries, and our profession, we need you. And I'm very glad that there are many people interested in that here today. I wish you have a really good program with very productive conversations on chat or otherwise. And thank you, Ray. Thank you for coordinating this.
Thank you, Loida. Sorry, I noticed that there were more slides at the bottom that I forgot to include. If you wanted to show them, we can
That's
use your
okay.
screen.
I think people got the message. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Loida. With that being said, I just wanted to remind folks that the ALA Council, as you heard from Madam President, that it's an elected position and there are opportunities to look at the current ballot and the current list of folks who are running for council. So right now it's voting period as well. So please remember to vote. It's so important that you vote for councilors and also being aware of the process. Those who are been involved for quite some time can tell you more about that. But in a nutshell, it really is important. Like the work we do really supports and highlights a lot of the public policy initiatives, community engagement, and a lot of activities that Madam President just shared earlier. So just to rehash quickly, the council responsibilities, there are meetings, there are agendas to discuss that relates to Treasury, Executive Board, to endowments, to bylaws. And it really helps us get an understanding of the structure of the library organization and in terms of what we do to advocate for our communities at large. And for those who are not familiar with this, there is a ALA Council candidate sorter by past President Andromeda Yelton, Lida, past president. She created this really important and useful tool to check on affiliations. And if you were curious about folks running for council, it's a really neat tool, and feel free to take a snapshot of it. The link is a little bit long, but or you can just type in ALA Council Candidate Sorter and on Google and it should show up. So there is that. Now, with that being said, I wanted to introduce our speakers for today. It's a really great opportunity to hear from all four of them to really talk about their experiences. So first, I'll just briefly go over from the left to the right. We have Leroy, called Lee LaFleur from Tufts University. He is the ACRL Division Counselor, and he's going to explain what that means compared to some other folks who are ALA Counselor at large. Next, we have Melissa Cardenas-Dow. She's at Social Science Librarian at Sacramento State University, ALA Counselor at large. Cecilia Tovar, the Principal Librarian at Santa Monica Public Library, California Library Association Chapter Councilor. So there's a chapter and a division counselor we have. And then finally, we have Dora Ho, YA librarian in Los Angeles Public Library, ALA Counselor at large, and truly a veteran and very experienced person who will really share a lot of her experiences with us all. So this is how we're going to do this. I have a question, and I'm going to direct them to our panelists, and they're going to respond. And if they want to respond to each other, that's totally great. So the first question is, why did you run or serve for ALA Council? So we'll start with Lee, Melissa, Cecilia, and then Dora.
All right, I'm assuming you all can hear me because I am unmuted, and I will try not to be too long in my answer to this. But, and I am the ACRL Division Counselor, as Ray said. So I actually had a long history of participation in ACRL, which is how I kind of came to council. As a library school student, I joined the ACRL student chapter, and then right after library school, I started to become active in ACRL. particularly within the different sections that ACRL has, in terms of my different, I was a subject librarian, and in terms of my different subject associations with different disciplines, social sciences and education and so on and so forth. And I found that once I was involved in that work, and I joined committees, and then once you join committees, you begin to sort of move into leadership roles within those sections, at least for ACRL. And so I eventually became sort of a section chair. And so in short, you know, I kind of find that I've just this history of participation. I derived value from the participation. I was learning about being a new librarian, and then that sort of allowed me to get to know people within the sections. And then once you see yourself as part of an organization, or this was my experience, I found myself wanting then to be able to give back to that association. And so then at times when the division needed leadership roles, I was willing to contribute my interests and what I could bring to that. So currently in my role as division counselor, I essentially serve as the ACRL board's representative to council, to ALA Council. So that means as well that I am also a full board member, director. I'm on the board of directors for ACRL, as well as a full member of ALA Council. The role of division counselor for ACRL is actually an elected position. So ACRL has a nominating committee that then finds candidates to run. And so I was one of two people to stand on the ballot for the division counselor position, and then I won that election to serve a 3-year term on both the ACRL board of directors and on ALA Council. So that's sort of how I came to be in this particular position. And then my position actually ends, the end of my term is at the end of July of this year, 2019. But I am currently on the ballot to be an ALA Councilor at large, for those of you who are voting. Or those of you maybe who already voted. So again, sort of bringing those threads together, I guess I would say I also personally was interested in serving in the role I'm in now and in running again, because I see it as an opportunity as well to influence and contribute to and shape the work of our association. The association is big and confusing and unwieldy, some of the words that showed up in the word cloud, but the more time you spend with it and the more involved you get, it makes more sense, and it gives you an opportunity to help make the organization better. I think as well, you all can't see me, but as an African-American man, I also feel like there really is a need for people of color to represent our perspectives on council, and there are not very many of us, so I'm doing my part in that regard. That's it.
Great, thanks, Lee. Melissa?
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay, good. So basically, I too had kind of like a circuitous path towards council. I had been an ALA emerging leader, so I knew council was in my future, but I was much more interested in finding my niche, and that was the APALA. And I got involved with committees through there, and since I love to work, so those were some of the things that I wanted to do. I just wanted to do the work. And I knew some council members through APALA. Dora was one of them, and she and other counselors were very encouraging. They said, you should run for council. And even though like I was thinking, okay, I know that's in my future, I wasn't fully invested yet. So when I did run in 2016, that was when I had decided, okay, that's a logical next step for me in terms of my career. So so I did. And just as Leroy had said, it wasn't until I saw that, people of color wasn't as represented within ALA governance, that was like a big push for me to continue on that path.
Great. Cecilia?
Oops, I was mute. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to all of you about my experience. I have to say that when I first heard about ALA Council, I thought it was a small group of people that got together. I really had no idea. When I was a student, I knew that I want to be involved in some sort of leadership role, and that actually helped me to participate more through my library school student organization at the time. And in Arizona, I'm actually originally from Arizona. And through that work, and also coming as a member of the Reforma in Arizona, it really helped me to shape my view about what kind of work or what kind of influence I wanted to have in library as a general. Then not until actually starting to have more responsibilities moving up in my career as a leader, as a manager, then I realized that I really did not understand ALA at all. I knew that some of the processes and policies and some of the programs, but I truly did not know why it was important and why do I need to become a member or be part of this great organization. So I surrounded myself and with people that have been in the ALA world, and they're the ones that encourage me to ask the questions, to be more involved in committees, to actually do more work for librarians and library staff. And that's how I started getting more involved in this big organization. Not until I moved to California 5 years ago, like I said, all my career it has been in Arizona, that I actually started to become more involved with my California State Association. And at the time when I was running, I actually ran as an ALA Councilor at large, and not knowing that when I ran for California Library Association Chapter Councilor, I could not hold both. And I was very confused about it. I'm like, oh, so I cannot be ALA Councilor at large and also be California Library Association Chapter Councilor. And and then I understood, no, because I cannot have two votes. I can either represent California Library Association, or only be American Library Association Council at large. So that was definitely something new to me. And so I decided to resign ALA Council at large and become the actual California Association Chapter Councilor. I think my role as a CLA chapter is a little bit different from ALA Council at large. What I do is that I do have a vote at ALA, but I come back to my chapter. I discuss all the new procedures or guidelines, policies, and we discuss there what is important for our state. So I just felt that I could influence more as a California Library Association chapter, and it has been an actual, very rewarding position that I have been, and I'm still learning. This is my second year. Like everyone else, I started just going into ALA Council just to observe. I started asking questions. There's many networks and leaders that you can network and kind of learn from them. So that has been my trajectory and how I represent, California, basically.
Thank you. Dora?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Sorry about my voice. I recently have a surgery, so my voice may go in and out, but I'm still here. My path is a little different. I'm serving my 5th term on ALA Council. At the beginning, I was involved with the new members roundtable. I was very curious about how I can get more involved with ALA, and the staff liaison has told me, well, in order to get involved, you need to learn more about what ALA is all about. So he encouraged me to go attend a council meeting, and I was sitting in the back like, most people starting out and not knowing what's going on, and just listening to all the reports and the resolution and going through all the parliamentary procedures, and I was totally confused and totally lost. But then he encouraged me to go back a few more times, say, in order to really understand ALA, you need to get involved. You need to learn more about ALA Council. So I went for a couple more times, and I was really fascinated about what the ALA Council can do by just, their vote. Each vote counts, and I was very interested in all the parliamentary procedures. So I decided to run for council, and I was elected that year, and I'm serving my 5th term right now. So I'm really excited about, that, and, I want to continue to serve. And a few years ago, I served on the ALA Executive Board, and that really taught me a lot about what ALA is all about, including all the things you want to know, not want to know, legally, politically, everything, about the business side of ALA, the membership side of ALA, everything. So I think by serving on council, you really learn a great deal about ALA itself.
Great, thank you. And as someone who is also an ALA counselor at large, I will just chime in for a minute here. I was actually encouraged by Sandy Wee, who is a former counselor at large and very active in ALA organization as well. And she's at Public Library in San Mateo. And I just want to give her a shout out because she really encouraged me to think beyond ALA Council instead of like a club, because I think that it gives off that impression that it could be cliquish and it's a club. But actually, there's a lot of work. I'm in I think, rotating my 1st year and having really good mentors and folks I could talk to, like Dora, Cecilia, Melissa, Lee, and Lessa, and so many other people out there in council really helps me understand, the work we do is really important to not just simply make changes, but like to really think about how we're serving our communities better and really identifying the needs of those that we need to really support further with the agendas that are coming through. So I think it's a lot of discussions, a lot of work, but it's also very great opportunity to make a difference in what we do in the profession. So I wanted to circle into the second question, which is about how and what has been helpful and or challenging in navigating ALA Council. So I'll start with Melissa, Cecilia, Dora, and then Lee. Melissa?
All right. So you already kind of talked about this, Ray, when you mentioned that basically having colleagues that you know and trust. And from my experience, Dora, Sandy, we also were the ones that encouraged me to run, but they also took it upon themselves to lead me through and be very patient with me as I learned about tasks and expectations and also the social aspects of ALA Council, since that's something that we often forget about, that ALA Council is also a social space, even though we tend to also think of it like from a negative standpoint of like, being cliquish. There is also that aspect of networking, right? And getting to know council members and what particular issues there are, because that's another thing that we can learn about by widening our circle, our networking circle. And so I found just basically like taking on the good graces of colleagues, it has been very helpful, as well as like the structures that ALA Council has, like the mentoring and orientation, and taking advantage of those helped a lot. In terms of challenges, I would say that it's still a challenge for me, like going through parliamentary procedures and trying to understand what that is, in addition to just applying the rules, especially when things are kind of going sideways, and going with the flow and trying to, well, that's not, trying to navigate that and understand what's going on. And that, I think, is still very challenging for me. So that's one aspect. And another aspect is actually keeping up with a lot of the issues that are coming to the fore. There's a lot of reading, not just like in terms of documents, but also in terms of conversations and discussions that often go through not just the lists, or the ALA Council list, but also what's happening in other areas of ALA. I think it really helps you, as your role as counselor at large, to have an inkling on what conversations are happening.
Great, thanks. Cecilia?
Hello. Well, very similar to what Melissa said. I believe that the rewarding part of being at ALA Council and also to represent California has been the number of people that I had met. Definitely my network has expand, and the mentorship that I have received and support from my current director, who is also very involved in previous directors and other people that have supported me through this. It is kind of social. It is intimidating when you go in and you see this body of people and going up to the microphone and knowing when to say something or when you need to get up and vote or ask a question. It is intimidating, but at the same time, kind of going through the process and talking to people and understanding your role, it makes it easier. It takes time, and I believe that there's two people. One that really enjoys all the procedures and get into the weeds of how do you develop a policy and how you discuss it, and those that are more that they probably can influence and have a discussion and in smaller groups. And I believe that also ALA has been able to be pretty good at it, is that actually they developed all these committees and groups and roundtables that you have an opportunity to discuss things that you don't understand, or perhaps that you had I don't know, like a concern, and able to talk about them. My challenge was, like I said, it was to understand really what it was a chapter counselor role versus, at ALA Council. And I think that what it really helped me is to navigate through the different listservs and understanding chapter relations, and also understand the ALA role. So getting through all those emails and reading and actually being able to select, okay, this is what is important for California to know. This is what they need to know. It has been a little bit challenging, but again, you're connected constantly. And so if you're not going to put that time to really go through those emails and understand the discussions, or at least to ask the question, this is going to be very overwhelming. It gets easier, definitely. It gets easier as you are more and spend more time with people and having the discussions and being out there. So don't be afraid. Ask questions, and it's okay to say, I did it once, it didn't work out, this is not for me. It's totally okay too. I think I do want to say that, because you don't have to if you continue running. But it's good to get involved, and actually it's good to be exposed to how ALA works and what can you bring back to your role as a librarian, and perhaps as your state chapters as well.
Thank you. Dora?
Definitely want to echo what Melissa and Cecilia have said so far. Is definitely takes a process to understand the parliamentary procedures. You do have to have patience and respect for your fellow counselor, because not everybody understands how it works. So I think having a lot of patience is important, especially when we go through all the amendments. So I'm sure everybody understands. Most challenging for me is the first year I was so intimidated by the mic. I didn't even have the nerve to go up to the mic to speak for my first year. So I think it takes a process to really tell yourself it's okay to go up to the mic and speak and ask your questions. The other challenges is scheduling, because when you attend council meeting, you kind of block out all your time at ALA for like 3 days in a row, and it used to be 4 days. So so you don't have a lot of time to attend programs. So also you have to attend all the other meetings, like the forums, the information sessions. At the beginning, the forums are always at night. So it's kind of late at night to go back to your hotel, and kind of scary. But I think it's really helpful. The forum is really helpful, and also help you gain more information and preparing you for the next days, the next meeting coming up. And also reading all the documents. You have to read through all the documents, and sometimes they come out late at night, so we kind of have to stay up late to make sure that you read through all the documents, so in order to cast a the vote that you want to. So it is very important that you spend the time to read through the documents, and as Melissa said, ask questions. Ask your fellow counselor colleagues. Ask anybody who is willing to help you, or become a as I was the first term, I asked somebody I totally don't know about, but I think she is a great counselor, and she knows so much about, she's like the grammar police. So I asked her to be my mentor to help me understand more about what the parliamentary procedure is. So you just go up and willing to ask anybody who's willing to help you. I think that's important.
Great, thank you. Lee?
Yeah, no, I think this is great. And I agree with pretty much everything everyone has said. Someone, maybe Cecilia mentioned, so I was assigned a mentor. The orientation committee assigns, I think, mentors maybe to everybody, but I was matched with another division counselor, someone who had experience on council, and I found that to be very helpful. And I agree, once you get in the room, there are so many counselors, sometimes there are people and you didn't know they were counselors. There are lots of friendly people there who are totally willing to help you, but I did find it to be helpful to have somebody assigned to me, and I did find him and sat with him on the first day. I would also say, as has been said, the more time you spend on council, you do get used to it. You get used to the reoccurring issues and the ongoing issues, because there are a lot of threads that cut across meetings. I think you also get used to the protocols, including Robert's rules, but also just the, who gets up to the mic, when do you get up to the mic? So just the process in general becomes more comfortable. I would say in terms of challenges, I think scheduling is a great one, Dora, so thanks for that. And the reading too. There's a lot of deep reading that needs to happen, and in order to sort of understand a lot of the nuances, because sometimes changes and proposals and resolutions are very, very clear, and then other times the devil is in the details, and you have to spend time figuring that out. And then similar to what Cecilia said, as a division counselor, I also have a role in taking the things from council and translating them back to my colleagues on the ACRL board and also to the ACRL membership. And depending, ALA, obviously, big ALA, talks about so many different issues that identifying and digesting those that are most relevant for the academic library community can also be a challenge at times. And that's something that somebody in my role has to sort of work through. That's it. Oh, another thing that I think is helpful, there's a teleprompter not a teleprompter, but there's a transcript, a running transcript of the proceedings of council. So while you're listening and watching, you can also read what people are saying. And that's super helpful, I think, for everybody to be able to help you follow the discussions. All right, that's really it.
Thanks, Lee. It's also true, I want to add that there are also the transcripts and also the voting, that it's open on the ALA Council website, that you can see what are the policies or the agenda items being discussed and voted on for those council sessions after the fact, after ALA. I think they get uploaded probably a week or so after. So that's for everyone's information. Finally, we have this last question here. We'll take a sort of a brief shot at it, and because we want to have time for Q&A. So the last question here is, what advice would you share with folks who are on the fence about doing ALA council work? We start with Cecilia, Dora, Lee, and then Melissa. Cecilia?
Hi again. I would say go and observe. Go up to the ALA Council. They're open to the membership and experience. But if you can actually identify one or two people in your network or in ALA to ask more questions, that will be great. Also, there's times that we can share some of the documents so you can see what kind of documents they come in or how do we read it. So I would just start there. I would just start there to ask the questions, to observe, and to read some of the documents.
Great. Dora?
Definitely talk to your current and past counselor to find out, what are their challenges and their experience. I think it's really helpful. That will help you decide whether you want to run for council or not. And also knowing that, as Lee and Melissa was saying, we represent, a lot of the people of colors. So it's a great way to represent all the ethnic caucuses. We really don't see that many people who are representing on the council, so it's a great way to represent your ethnic caucuses. And also knowing that as councilor at large, our vote to represent, all the membership. So, we're not just serving just the division or chapter councilor, but we're actually serving all our members. So just keep that in mind. I think it's really to give us an idea why we want to serve on the ALA Council is to represent all the memberships, because not everybody get to vote, and only the councilor, only the seated councilor get to vote. And I think we have the responsibility to serve them as well. And do definitely try to get a mentor, or attend council orientation, even though you're not a member of council yet, but definitely attend both midwinter and ALA annual orientation, because each of the session give out different information. As the chair of orientation committee, I think that's very important for people to come to council orientation to get familiar with what your responsibilities are and what resources that we can provide for potential counselors.
Thank you, Dora. Lee?
Yeah, I would say, if you're on the fence about council, talk to a counselor. Certainly, as Dora just said, come visit council, but even just having this conversation or talking with another counselor, I think could help sway you. I would also say, don't be too discouraged by, recent events. There have been lots of reports about council, and I think people have lots of emotions about council right now based on some things that happened at Midwinter. But I will say that, all of your presences are needed there to help improve the association and to help it move forward on key issues, microaggressions, issues like whether the association executive director needs to have an MLS. So, I mean, to improve the association, you have to be there, you have to participate. And just sort of adding to that, it is a membership association. So, if you find value in ALA, at some point, you have to be willing to serve in this capacity. That's it.
Thanks, Lee. Finally, Melissa.
Okay, I wanted to go back to what Cecilia had said earlier, and that is, if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't. And 1 year, it's, might be enough. So with that respect, I would say it's really important to know yourself and what you want to push yourself to do and what your tolerance for things are. Because if you're on the fence, then that's something that you are already wrestling with anyway. So like if you are thinking about, okay, maybe I should go into jump in and do ALA council work. I would say that it is really important to find your niche and to remember that council is also a social space, and we basically the quality of council is brought up by the members, the people that are there. So if you can contribute something, and you very well likely will, then that is something that you should also consider. I know like a lot of like people on the ballot had been swayed to be on the ballot precisely because of that, of being able to add something to the social space of ALA Council. And that's it.
Great. Those are really helpful advice. I think I would echo all of what you all said, and also including what President Loida Fabo Garcia said, which is about just putting your name on the ballot and trying it. Even if it doesn't work the first time, it's important to just be part of the process and understand how it goes, because the questions that when you're applying to be on council will prompt you to really reflect and think, what communities are you serving? What is your vision and goal? How does it align with ALA? So that is really helpful in that aspect. So now we have time for questions and answers. So if you all have questions, participants or attendees, feel free to type in the chat box. There is one question I do want to raise, which is actually going back to the mentoring. I think Lee had mentioned it, which is about having all assigned, or at least in his case, he had a mentor, if I was correct. I don't recall if this is applying to ALA Councilor at large. Can someone respond to that? Or is it only for the division or chapter councilors to have a mentor?
This is Dora. I'm on the Council Orientation Committee Chair. We do assign councilor mentors. If they wanted one, we don't automatically assign it because not everybody wants one, and some of the people who are re-elected. So usually I put a call out on the listserv after you are elected to see if you want a mentor. If you do, just let the Council Orientation Chair know.
Great, thank you, Dora. There's a question here from Jana, which is basically, how do you get on the ballot? Is that through the ALA volunteer form? Does anyone want to just jump into that?
This is Melissa. I just did a round of, I was in the 2019 nominating committee. And brief answer, yes, you basically go to the, well, not the volunteer form, but election information, because there is, it's not live anymore, but you have to fill out a biography form. Let me get, I'm pretty sure it's this one. Hang on. I'm grabbing the link. And first order is that it's basically because the bio form is what signals to the nominating committee that you have an intention to run. Then it goes to the nominating committee and takes a look at those bio forms, because there are questions there that are being asked. And those are the things that we review. I shouldn't say we, the nominating committee reviews. And then they will then basically forward it to the staff liaison to put on the ballot once the nominating committee has approved your candidacy.
And I'll just chime in. I am on nominating committee 2020, so we've just met once now, but we're looking for both presidential candidates and councilor at large candidates for 2020 for the next round.
Great. So there is a question here from Dave. What kind of time commitment can one expect outside of the meetings at annual and midwinter? And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think Dora or Cecilia had mentioned about blocking in time, but if feel free to chime in.
I will answer. As a chapter relation counselor, you do have to, I would say, maybe on a constant basis, an hour just to go through the emails, sometimes a little bit more depending on what kind of report you need to put out for your association. Sometimes it is, going through the meetings for example, after midwinter or the general ALA conference, I come back and I have to go through all the paperwork. I have to put a report. I have conversations with some of the California Association membership, and it is lots of forwarding emails, lots of, for example, if we need to make sure like right now, all the information about the Census 2020, it is how do you get involved, how do you ask the questions, how do you disseminate the information to everyone. And sometimes the membership for ALA do email you directly, especially if there's anything concern or like, for example, like Leroy said about what happened at midwinter, people want to engage, and so you do need to sometimes engage with them. So, it depends. Like I said, I do block some time to go through my emails and at least an hour almost every day just to go through everything, all the list of everything, just to kind of moderate the discussions.
Anyone else want to add anything about managing time?
Well, my time commitment is because I meet with the board of directors for ACRL, and then I also meet with ALA Council. So I'm in meetings for almost the entire conference. So I might not, my experience would not be everyone's experience. But I think, there's reading to do in between, and then there's the evening or morning fora too. So, it's notable.
Great. So actually, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Melissa. I just wanted to echo Leroy there because it is a big time commitment, because in addition to your presence at ALA Council council sessions, there is also the forum, and then there's also just keeping up with the discussions that's going on. Since a lot of us are also play the roles like within roundtables or divisions, then like for me, most of my time is spent in meetings, and so I don't normally attend programs anymore. But that's fine, because I blocked time off also just so that I could go through the documents. And then because part of the challenge is also like revisions coming in when during conference, you kind of have to be on your toes too, so that could also affect the time commitment.
So I have this one last comment question. It's a side conversation that's been happening in the chat box. Somebody had asked about ACRL Cleveland being a few weeks away. What are some workshops, talks, and meetings we should look out for? And then Mary Ellen had responded that by ALA, there are no business meetings at division conferences, but we have a lot of great content. We have a lot of sessions addressing EDI issues. And then a follow-up about particular topics that they might be interested in regarding in council. Is there any council activities or informal meetings that you might know of? This is addressing to Lee and or possibly Melissa and others who might be going to ACRL.
I don't think there are any ALA Council like specific sessions. There are likely to be sessions on, the general ones on like leadership and collaboration and so on and so forth that might be interesting if you're going to be working in a group like council, but I don't think there's anything council specific. And there certainly are not, official meetings. There could be some informal meetups of various groups, but I don't know for sure.
Got it. There are actually two quick questions. One is, well, actually, this one's a bigger one. Do you expect any changes with council activities with the upcoming changes with Midwinter? Okay, I think that's a wrap. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody want to just...
I mean, I don't know. In fact, and Mary Ellen might know the answer to this. The SCOE group, the group that's looking at the changes, have been doing, all sorts of presentations to ALA membership. And I don't know if they're going to be doing something again at ACRL in Cleveland. But yes, I mean, it is entirely possible that there will be changes to council. It's certainly on the table, but as far as I know, nothing definitive has been decided.
It's a long process. I think that it is exciting to know the SCOE and the executive boards are actually looking into this and engaging more about how we make it more efficient and manageable. Like Leroy said, I presume that there's going to be change and there are going to be a little, smaller ones, and hopefully, with all this work, maybe in a year or two, we'll see more of a definite changes. But I think that the key here is that they are sharing all this information out to the membership, and they're actually walking through the process with everyone. So do participate if you can. Offline or online, or if you are at ALA, to those go to those sessions and participation or presentations about it.
All right, I think our time is up. We are actually a minute over. Thank you all for your questions, comments, and thoughts. Please join me in thanking our speakers for their time to just share their advice, wisdom, and experiences with us. And I hope all of you listening in a recording or live right now will consider joining ALA Council or being more active and involved. And so I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. The recording will be sent to you via email.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.